Well guys, I've been posting videos officially now for 6 months, and to celebrate this milestone, I want to answer a question that all of you guys have asked me. Who is the greatest UFC/MMA fighter of all time? I'm just going to be counting UFC fighters for this video, so don't comment, oh I should have included Fedor, this and that. But welcome back guys. You know, this is a video that I've been meaning to do for a while, and I've kind of said who is in my like top 5 or top 10, but I want to give you guys my exact top 5 in order. Who is the greatest of all time? So let me know in the comment section below, who do you guys think is the greatest of all time? We are now at UFC. It is now officially UFC 288 fight week. Aljamain Sterling, Henry Cejudo. You know we're gonna have coverage on that. And yeah, so starting tomorrow, we're going to be posting content for that. So let's just get into this. Alright, you know it's a good day when we have a sponsor. The sponsor of today's video is actually a sponsor I'm super excited to work with is Arete. Arete is a streetwear brand from the UK that has designs inspired by mixed martial arts. They have designs inspired by fighters like Darren Till, Paddy Pimblett, and so much more. The people over there were nice enough to send me a hoodie of my own. As you guys could see, you know, it says kill everybody. Like seriously, I had no idea what these hoodies were gonna look like, but I was insanely surprised. These hoodies look dope as hell. Look, if you guys want to go check out their designs, which I really suggest you guys do, go hit the link in the description and use code JACK10 to get 10% off of your order. That means you're gonna help me as well as help yourself, because you're gonna get some dope ass merch while also getting a massive discount. But let's just get back into the video. Alright, number 5 was probably the hardest I had to come up with, but I went with Jose Aldo. Now, Jose Aldo was the first UFC featherweight champion, dominated for like 8 years, fought the likes of the Korean Zombie, Frankie Edgar, Chad Mendes, the list goes on. And before that fight with Conor McGregor, I mean, this guy was pound for pound #1. The guy was looking unbeatable. Phenomenal takedown defense with a great kickboxing background, especially those leg kicks. A lot of people credit that to him playing soccer a lot of his early life, and this was a guy that maybe didn't do the most media, you know, he didn't speak English and talk to the English media necessarily in English, cutting promos, but his fighting did the work for him. And even in a Conor McGregor rematch, we all know what happened. He did get knocked out by Conor in 13 seconds, but it wasn't like Conor proved he was the overall better fighter, right? He did just knock him out, which credit to Conor McGregor. He found the shot and it was a perfect counter, and it wasn't a fluke because Conor did practice that shot. So I don't mean to take anything away from Conor, but it's not like Conor went in there for 5 rounds and 50-45 him, outstruck him. Like in a rematch, that fight is probably close. Even back in 2015, if they ran that back immediately, it probably would have been pretty close. Now that being said, yes, Conor could have just knocked him out again. Yes, Conor has the power, but however, my point is, you know, even after that, the guy was able to become the featherweight champion again, lost to Max Holloway, then went to bantamweight, almost got a bantamweight title shot. He ran into Merab and lost and retired, now is doing boxing. But when you look at Merab's performance against Petr Yan and you look at his performance against Jose Aldo, you gotta say Aldo did better, and that could be because of altitude, and there's a lot of other factors, and I think all of us can agree that he's definitely one of the best of all time, but I'm putting him at number 5. Alright, number 4, I'm going with Demetrious Johnson. Now DJ, he is fighting this week, this Friday actually, and he was the first ever flyweight champion. I mean, he dominated Ray Borg, John Dodson, Henry Cejudo he has a win over, and that second fight could have went to Demetrious Johnson as well. And the problem with Demetrious Johnson is similar to Jose Aldo, he didn't really promote himself, so a lot of people don't give him so much recognition, but this guy is genuinely one of the best. Granted, yes, when he was the flyweight king, the flyweight contenders were nowhere near as good as they are right now, or entertaining for that matter, but Demetrious Johnson showed dominance, and he was so well-rounded. And what's most impressive is that he left the UFC and is still dominating at 1, did that crossover event with Rodtang, and it looks like that he probably will retire pretty soon, you know, even alluding that this fight could be his last. And I do feel bad. I think that the UFC has done him extremely dirty, but I guess what are you going to do, promote another champion at another organization? It's tough for them, but I will put Demetrious Johnson in my number 4, and I honestly do like him a lot, and I think a lot of people need to respect him. But let's get down to the top 3. I think a lot of you guys already know what's going to be in my top 3. It's just a matter of the order. Number 3, I'm going with George St. Pierre. Now, this one could be controversial because I know a lot of people have him at number 2, and I'm going to tell you why. George St. Pierre is definitely the most dominant out of this top 5. But the thing about George St. Pierre is when you look at his finishing rate, it's not so good. You know, especially when you look at a lot of his older fights, especially when he was a champion, there's a lot of boring ones in there. Like even the one with Carlos Condit, he gets dropped, but then outside of that, there isn't really much that goes on. Just George St. Pierre controlling him, and that's what makes him so great. Look, like I say with Israel Adesanya, can him jabbing and leg kicking and keeping his opponents at range be boring? Absolutely, but it doesn't take away how good he is at it. That's why Khabib, I do criticize him, but the guy did get finishes when he controls his opponents, and that's incredibly impressive. And I don't mean to take anything away from George St. Pierre. I mean, the guy is a dominant champ, and he's a nice guy, of course, very skilled and well-rounded. He also has a karate background, so he can do stand-up as well. However, I just think because of the lack of finishes and sometimes the boring performances, and I'm not necessarily ranking this on who do I think would win win in a fight, because I think that's impossible to do, seeing that everybody has different skill sets. But I think part of being the GOAT is also having those spectacular performances, as well as being dominant. But I think having finishes is also important as well. Also, having the ability to be well-rounded goes with it too. And that's why I'm going to go with George St. Pierre at number 3. All right, number 2, Anderson Silva. Now, this guy, I mean, like I said, he is still going at it, because the guy went to boxing, obviously dominated there. Yes, he lost to Jake Paul. But if this was like a prime Anderson Silva, I honestly think he probably beats Jake Paul. But where do you start with this guy? I mean, earlier in his career, you know, the guy was just knocking out people, especially in his championship reign. He just knocked people out. You were lucky to go to the 3rd round with this guy. Then eventually we all know, yes, he had a few boring performances. You know, the Chael Sonnen first fight was leading towards an Anderson loss, and then he pulled it out in the last seconds. Obviously the Damian Maia fight as well. But then the trajectory of his career changes, and he gets that front kick knockout, turning him into a star. And then he avenges that fight against Chael Sonnen. Even though it wasn't a loss, he still proved, hey, I could hang with this guy. And you look at his resume, I mean, Dan Henderson, Chael Sonnen, Forrest Griffin in the 1st round. I mean, he was going up and down weight classes, knocking people out. And then eventually, yes, he did lose to Chris Weidman. And that was kind of the beginning of the end for his career. He won against Nick Diaz, and then won against Derek Brunson. And then other than that, had pretty bad performances in MMA until he got to boxing, where he fought Julio Cesar Chavez, beat him, and I was very surprised about that. Knocked out Tito Ortiz in the 1st round. Obviously lost to Jake Paul. But the thing that made me put Anderson Silva in 2 instead of 3, because I was heavily debating this, was the Israel Adesanya fight. Now, this was a fight where Anderson was way past his prime, fighting in Israel Adesanya, a guy who has shown to be a danger right now. And this is a guy that's amazing at kickboxing, and it was a 3-round fight, and Anderson had some success. Like, he debatably won that 2nd round. I'm not even sure if it was really debatably. I think he pretty much won the 2nd round. And while, yes, he clearly did lose the fight, but I think that shows that maybe a prime Anderson could take out a guy like Adesanya. I mean, he definitely was a really dangerous kickboxer at one point in his life, and he still is. I mean, I wouldn't want to fight Anderson Silva. I mean, look at some of the damage it did to Jake Paul in a boxing match. And I think getting number 2 out of the way, I think you guys know who number 1 is. The GOAT in MMA, in my opinion, is Johnny Bones Jones. Now, John Jones, youngest UFC champion, beat Shogun Rua, and then in my opinion has the best resume out of everybody in this. I mean, DC, Lyoto Machida, Rampage Jackson, Rashad Evans, the list goes on. And you know, the question mark in this whole thing is the steroids. Yes, I'm going to get into that at the end of the video and talk about why I don't count it in my top 5. But yes, that is kind of the big cloud surrounding John Jones's career. Comes back, fights DC, gets suspended again, comes back, defeats Alexander Gustafsson for a 2nd time, and gets on his 2nd title reign, where he fights Thiago Santos, Anthony Smith, won a robbery decision against Dominic Reyes. And from there, you know, a lot of people were like, hey, is John Jones even that great? There are a lot of people doubting John Jones. He comes back 3 years off, fights Ciryl Gane, the number 1 contender at heavyweight, a guy who is extremely dangerous, and submits him in the 1st round. And I know a lot of people I see on Twitter saying, hey, if Ciryl Gane was good on the ground, he would have won. Or if Ciryl Gane had half decent takedown defense, he would have won. Guys, I seriously suggest you guys watch my video about John Jones beating Ciryl Gane. I break down every single thing he does that takes Ciryl Gane's weapons away. Like, I'm being serious. This guy is a genius in the octagon. Little movements that he does, like little kicks that I just point out in the video. Go check it out, seriously, if you haven't already, because that'll just show to you. This wasn't like, oh, Ciryl Gane's just bad on the ground and John Jones is, period. No, John Jones came with heat. Like, he came prepared, and you obviously saw him watching the whole week, Ciryl Gane, watching him fight. The guy is a genius, and it's unfortunate that he has a lot of the outside stuff kind of tainting his career, and that sucks for him, because he is a talented fighter, and I think he could do a lot better and maybe be a Michael Jordan sorts of MMA. But it's just because of the outside stuff, it's not really working for him. But we'll see how he does against Stipe Miocic. But I think regardless, he's already solidified himself as the greatest of all time, and no one has surpassed him. And I know what you guys are going to say, hey Jack, these guys were on steroids. Like, I don't count steroids, they're cheating. And I've included 2 fighters who use steroids, and they're number 1 and number 2. The reason I do count fighters who have tested positive for steroids is because, to be honest guys, I think a lot of fighters are on steroids. As sad as it is to say,
all you motherfuckers are on steroids.
As much as we like to pretend that this sport is 100% clean, it really isn't. There's a lot of fighters I think on my head are on steroids, and I don't really like to call them out because I have no evidence, and I don't want to spread misinformation to you guys and start rumors when I could be very much wrong. But there are a lot of fighters that I do genuinely think are on steroids, like no joke champions, some that you might not even expect. And I'm not gonna make any accusations. You know, I know I'm beating around the bush kind of, and if you guys probably even want to hear me more now say it, maybe I'll make a video on it, who knows. But that's why I'm very careful on who I make jokes about, who's on steroids, who's not. I'll just usually make a joke. I'm never going to accuse someone unless they've literally tested positive. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe all these people were on steroids that are on the list. Not saying I have a reason to believe it, I'm just saying the sport is very much dirty, and we definitely need help with the drug testing side of things. And it does suck because I do want a clean sport, and I think it's unfair because at a certain point you're gonna have to take steroids just to be able to compete because everyone else is on steroids. So it's not even like you're trying to cheat. It's not like you're trying to get get ahead of the competition. Now you're just trying to keep up with the competition and just be on their same level. So it's tough and it sucks. I really wish that there was something that we could do a little more concrete. It seems like USADA hasn't really been trying their best as of late, but it is what it is, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know who you guys think is your top 5 greatest of all time. This is a very interesting conversation. A lot of people have different opinions. Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.